Hey, so here we are on safari. In this day, we are in Botswana at a fairly remote bush camp called Linyanti Bush Camp. It is a part of the African Bush Camps tour operator company. Um, and I didn't realize until I took this screenshot just how close we were to the Namibia border. Um, I don't think we ever crossed it in driving around in our safari vehicle, but it was like, wow, that's how close we were. So you can kind of see for this day kind of where we were driving out in I think it's the Chobe National Park. So they have rights to a certain part of uh, the park there. Okay. So these are vultures, as you can see. Um, One of the things that I started to notice with the guides is that they watch different animal behavior because they know how interconnected these animals are. And so these vultures, she was trying to figure out if they were waiting for a kill to free up or something like that, because often they're an indicator that something has happened, um, and they're wanting to go in and kind of clean up the spoils, if you will. And so she was watching these pretty closely um, for maybe trying to figure out that there was some activity going on. Now, as she was watching those vultures, we got off-road. And I wanted to capture this because these safari vehicles are pretty extraordinary and very durable. And so she is in the bush, in the thicket, and she's running over some of these smallish trees like it's nothing, you know. And so she's looking based on those vultures to see if she can find anything off-road, which I thought was fascinating. You can just watch how this vehicle just mows over things. It's pretty amazing. Okay. And then here is another view of that same thing, you know. Now those branches, you can see that this vehicle is kind of open. It's got a cover on the top, kind of a canvas cover, but it's open all the way around pretty much. And, so she was constantly warning us about branches. Like, you see that branch coming there? That could easily like just smack you in the face. Now, generally, um, sometimes we might have, 5 to 7 people in the vehicle. Sometimes it was just me and Alex. That's pretty much all it was. Um, but like it was just Alex and I, then Alex was usually up front on the right next to the driver, the guide, but I was in the next seat back, kind of in the middle. So I wasn't having to worry too much about those branches smacking me in the face. But Alex was. Okay. One of the things we saw on our morning drive was the marabou bird. So this is a stork, and it's spelled Marabou. Uh, and I took quite a few pictures of this bird. It was quite impressive. It's a big bird. And I like taking reflection photographs, whenever that's a possibility. Um, and our guide called it the Undertaker bird. That was kind of its nickname. You kind of see that. You've seen cartoons with the Undertakers, with their hands behind their back, you know, kind of why it does look like that, right? The Undertaker bird. So it was quite impressive. Now, this buffalo, this particular one, I wanted to take a picture of because the day before, when we had landed in our helicopter, because this bush camp does not have an airstrip, so we had to land by helicopter. And this buffalo chased us. Okay. So, and apparently there's a reason for it. So this buffalo is getting older. It's an older buffalo. He's starting to lose his hair, and they feel very vulnerable when they get older. And so anyway, he they get aggressive, right? Because they feel more vulnerable. So part of the reason we got chased by him is that he's feeling that vulnerability of his age and everything. So he was chasing the helicopter. We had to circle at least once to land, um, and everything because he was chasing us. Uh, so I wanted to take a picture of him to remind me of that experience. Another picture I took of here is that a lot of these animals have this symbiotic relationship. So buffalo are often kind of um, um, stirring up the grass, causing a lot of insect activity to kind of pop up, and these birds just kind of hang out with them often because they know they can help them find food. Okay, and some smaller birds sometimes are picking whatever insects may be on the animal. So you will probably have seen birds riding on the back of different animals, because they help each other in some ways, right? This is a hoopoe. That one is spelled Hoopoe. Um, now I didn't get a picture of this, but these feathers on the top of the head of the hoopoe, they can fan out. Um, Now this is not happening right now with this photo, but you can just see from the coloring just how easily they can blend into the landscape. It was a really pretty bird like that. These are the Leshwe, another antelope type. They're about the size of impala. They can be mistaken for impala, but impala don't have all this black on their feet. There's like a little patch of black in the back for the impala, um, and these are more reddish in color. And this is a male and a female walking along. Now, this photo is one of my favorites because, here are these Leshwe walking around, not caring about anything in the world right at the moment. And that menacing looking hippo is back there in this little water channel. I thought that was an interesting photo. And there they are walking away. There were quite a few herds of these Leshwe. And in fact, in our tent, there was a herd of them that kind of hung around back, uh, on our back porch, because the river was right near us. Okay, so this hippo is swimming around in a little channel. You see that little bird on its back, uh, and everything. So he's just kind of doing his thing. Now, as this hippo was doing this, and we were watching this hippo, I could hear the grunting of lots of hippos, and I'm like, "Where are all the hippos?" Because I hear them, And the guide said, "You see all those boulders over there at the end of the channel?" Yeah, she said, "All of those are the hippos." And you'll see here in a second just how hard it is for your eyeballs to really understand what you're looking at. So here's this lone hippo kind of enjoying himself or herself. Yeah. So here's the boulders. Here are the boulders. Okay. So it might take you a little bit to sort of see this because it did for me. Um, you can see every once in a while an ear, sticking out. Like right there in the middle, you can see that there's a hippo head there with that ear. Okay. And so once you kind of see that, you can start to see it in other places in this photograph. But all of this, these are all hippos. Okay. And then here you can see a little bit more. There's an eyeball in the center with an ear. And once you see the ear, you can kind of see, oh, yeah, there's quite a few hippos out there. Okay. So what's coming up next are some videos of this. So I took some videos. You can see the ears. Once you start kind of training yourself to see it, you can see the ears. These hippos are not moving a heck of a lot. The next video will show some movement. Oh, there's a little movement, so you can see that there's a bunch of hippos in there. Um, and they were grunting. Not in this video, they weren't, but for the longest time, it took me forever to see them. So you kind of saw the one move, and as I pan back, you'll see it move more. So there you go. There's that big monster hippo. Okay. And so you might have to look at this video several times to kind of get the feel for, oh, there's a bunch of hippos there. It's amazing, right? And for my untrained eye, it was hard to see it. All right, and here's some hippos that come out on land. This delta here is usually probably covered in water. Uh, we were there during the dry season, so not a lot of water around. Okay. And these leadwood trees, I may have mentioned them before in some videos, because I've done several videos on this trip. But these leadwood trees are fascinating to me. They have salt content in them, and over a period of about 200 years, they essentially kill themselves. The African people call them suicide trees, because you'll see a tree and a branch will die, and then another branch will die, et cetera, et cetera. And over a period of time, so you know that this tree is at least 200 years old, probably longer. Uh, but at this juncture, it's a dead tree. Okay. But I was fascinated with them. They were all over the place in Africa. Okay. And out our back porch of the tent we were in, we were right on a bluff kind of overlooking this delta plain. Um, and there were some warthogs out there, and there were a couple of adolescent ones that were hanging out back there, some siblings that were hanging out back behind our tent. While we were out on the drive, um, we ran into this bachelor herd of elephants. Now, Sharon had stopped her vehicle at this point in time, because a lot of times, they're kind of on the road, you know. So it's kind of like until they move off, you don't want to startle them or give them a lot of anxiety or anything. And so I know that as guides, what I learned over time is that they have sort of a sense of what is needed in a situation. And so she had basically stopped the vehicle, turned it off, and we were watching this herd of male elephants. So they were kind of hanging out. One was on the road, I think. Yeah, that one kind of over on the left-hand side was on the road. They were kind of off the road, but we were just kind of waiting to see what they were going to do. Um, and so, oh, and you hear that's a dove in the back. And one of the guides said, he's saying, work harder, drink lager, work harder, drink lager. So that's all we could ever hear when those doves were calling. So here we are still in this bachelor herd, kind of waiting to see what's going to happen here, if they move off or if they continue. But basically, they continued to be interested in what the vehicle was. Um, so in Africa, in these large national parks, there are thousands of elephant. We saw elephant pretty much every day on safari. And, to various levels, these animals may be used to vehicles or maybe not, right? As used to vehicles. So these seem to be very interested in us in the vehicle. I don't even know if they knew that people were there necessarily. I think they kind of see this object, you know, and they maybe don't quite know what it is. Okay, so here comes one that's very interested in us. You see the tusks are shorter. They use these tusks a lot in the wild. So they're not nearly as long with a wild elephant usually. They can be broken off. They can be worn down. Sometimes one tusk may be darker than the other. It's kind of an indication if they're right tusked or left tusked, like we are right-handed or left-handed. You see, this one has gotten pretty close to our vehicle, and he's going to get even closer here in a moment. In the next video, you'll see him pretty much right at our vehicle because he's using his trunk to kind of check us out. Right, so Here's where he's just right there because that's our vehicle. So our guide, Sharon, uh, she was not too thrilled for whatever reasons that he was touching the Jeep with his trunk or the vehicle with his trunk. It's actually a Toyota, not a Jeep. Uh, and at one point she turned the engine on just to kind of get him to back away. And at that juncture, they all kind of backed away, and we were able to move on down the road. And he's like, "Wait, why are you following me?" And you see these branches? These branches could just smack you in the face. So you have to be really careful about that. So out over there is that Delta plane. Yeah, there you go. All right, so this bachelor herd moved on out into that Delta plane. They're just gorgeous, gorgeous. Loved taking pictures of these animals. They're just so amazing. And here, what we have, we're having one of the meals at the main tent, and they had these coverings over the glasses. So your water glass, your, what other glasses you may have with tea or alcohol or whatever you had. They had these lovely kind of mesh, colorful beads on them, and this kept bugs out of your uh water and everything. So I love these. I wish I could have gotten some of those. Beautiful. Okay, so this, once you walk into the gate of Linyanti camp, this is kind of the outline of what it looks like. As we walked back, there was kind of a like a little store area on the left-hand side. Then that tent you're seeing in front is the main tent where we had meals and everything. And then to the left, you would go down, there were tents down that way. So there was also a pool that people could use. Um, and our tent was the first one on that walkway down that way. Okay. A mama and her baby. And then there's another teenage elephant. This one is digging up dirt. I saw them every once in a while uh, digging in the dirt like that and eating. I don't know if it's eating sand or what, but I did see one eating sand. And this is our guide, and she's looking at the road. This is her looking at the road, looking at what fresh tracks might be out. So that's one of the ways they're trying to find these animals and seeing if they can find whatever they're going to find. In fact, one of our guides, would get out often and go, "What is this track? What do you think this track is?" And we'd look at it, and he was trying to educate us on, a lion track versus a cheetah track versus a leopard track, that type of thing. It was fascinating to look at. The landscape of Botswana at this camp, uh, sun is starting to set. Now, this is a very short video. It was only like 2 seconds, but this is a baby leopard that, let me play it again. Little bitty one, uh, that Sharon found for us. This is a better video of this little baby leopard. Um, um, we were trying to take a look at the mom, and the mom and the baby leopard were not real comfortable with the vehicles at all. And then probably 4 or 5 vehicles were descending on the mama and her baby. Um, and so these animals, the more elusive they are, the less comfortable they are with the vehicles. Um, but I got a pretty good video of this little baby right here. And this is at night. But yeah, it takes them a while to get used to vehicles. So like the elephants are more prevalent. They're kind of around the vehicles more, so they get more used to it. So yeah, she's not too sure about all of this. She's not too sure about it at all. All right, so this evening, a thunderstorm came in. It was the only time we experienced a thunderstorm in Africa at all during this period of time. Because it doesn't rain a lot in the winter. And you can see the lightning happening. And I took quite a few videos of this, going back to the camp this night, um, just because we were kind of flying down this little dirt sandy road, um, trying to get back before it got too bad. And it was starting to rain a little bit as we're heading back. You hear these branches hitting the car, right? So you got to be real careful with those. But you can see that Sharon is moving a little faster than we normally would have been. Um, and the other thing too about these drives is that, you're out for 3, 4 hours, maybe even a little longer, depending on when you decide to leave, when you decide to come back, etc. Now, she's hit a really sandy part here. There's a few spots on this road where it's really sandy. And I had asked them, I said, okay, so does it get muddy after a rain? And they said, nope, actually, it does not. The sand really absorbs the water very quickly. There might be some residue moisture in the sand, but it's not going to be muddy at all. The next day, it's not going to stick to your shoes at all. Um, and, and like these sections where the vehicle's having little sluggishness getting through the sand, it's pretty much the same even after it's rained. So um, it was really interesting to kind of see that and witness that. And you see, you're very much having to pay attention to those branches on the side, because they don't necessarily maintain this, like cutting trees away or something like that. They try to leave it, as best I can tell, very natural and all that, and try not to interfere too much in either the animals or the the plants and everything. So, it's kind of like sometimes these break just naturally because the vehicle will hit it or whatever. But that's about the only maintenance that occurs, And you can see it's a really bumpy ride. In fact, the African people call this the African massage. Um, uh, because honestly, and maybe you'll see a little later, uh, even their regular roads often are not paved. And so these can get pretty bumpy, and you have to kind of sit in these vehicles kind of like how you would sit on a horse, and you just kind of move your body with the flow of how it's moving. Yeah, you see that dip that it just hit? Yeah, and how it just kind of wobbles around. It's very interesting driving for sure. Okay. You're getting close to actually being back at the camp. I didn't capture this in the video, but we did run into a few elephants that kind of caught us by surprise and caught them by surprise. And I could see why you don't want to surprise them, because uh they were running away, and that could be dangerous for people for sure. And this vehicle, because an elephant, if it wanted to, could turn this thing over, those tusks. It's not going to be hard. And you saw Sharon just shield Alex from getting hit by a branch, or alert her to the fact that there was a branch coming. And lightning nothing. It was quite the thunderstorm. I mean, it rained into the night and was pretty heavy at night as well. It woke us up at one point because it was so loud. Here we had another sandy patch. You can kind of see how the Jeep struggles a little bit with this, and she has to gear down often in these stretches of sandy parts of the road. There we go. She's through that. Yeah, the sound is very deep. So we're getting close to the camp here. She had to gear down again because of the sand. You see how bumpy this is? Look at all those bumps in there. Can't quite tell, but it is actually starting to rain a little bit more as we're getting closer to camp. Because all you can really hear is the wind as we're driving by and the the engine. See the lightning happening off in the distance. So there's another vehicle in front of us, so we're getting really close. You'll actually see kind of the entrance of Linyanti Bush Camp here shortly. Uh, Getting another sandy spot here, having to pull through that. This usually, the Jeep would just rock back and forth, the Toyota would rock back and forth. Look at that. Because it's just so much sand.
But most of the time, doors yeah, like the animal try and put yourself in it. How do you get to okay.
And then that is it for that day on safari. Again, if you're looking to go on safari, I highly recommend it. And I wanted to do these videos so you could see kind of what it was like on a daily basis, not just the game drives. The game drives are awesome. They're incredible, but the people are just as incredible. And the experience of being in camp or in the wilderness is just as surprising at how interesting it is and how wonderful it is. Now, it had its challenges sometimes, and getting used to riding in the vehicle, as you can see, because we did 25 of these safari drives. So among us, we did that many. There was one that I didn't go on, um, and everything, but there was a special circumstance behind that. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed these. Um, and the company that we went through to book African bush camps is or Africa Dynamics. Africa Dynamics is based in Washington State, and they're fabulous. The woman who started it is from South Africa, and so she knows a lot and her staff know a lot about traveling to Africa. So I highly recommend them, or someone like them. Okay. All right. Thanks so much, and I'll see you later.